Well, some say the time for climate action was about 3 or 4 decades ago, but those involved on the front lines today are saying we better get our act moving. We better get going really quick on this. And we're going to talk with some folks who have been doing yeoman's work on the job. State Senator Rob Hogue, also Wally Taylor, an attorney with the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, and Drake professor David Korod Hari.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
I'm a burrito.
I'm a fighting burrito, full of fresh ingredients prepared before your very eyes.
I don't have eyes.
I have over 28 options and 268 million combinations, including Riso for vegetarians.
I can take my meat off and call myself vegetarian.
Put that back on. The Fighting Burrito is locally owned.
I'm owned by some big corporation somewhere. Say, you want to go on a date?
No thanks. I'm seeing a quesadilla.
The Fighting Burrito online, fightingburrito.com. Join the fight.
On March 28th, Equal Justice After Hours is Iowa Legal Aid's annual fundraiser that helps provide access to justice for low-income Iowans. The event includes a reception and program at the Temple for the Performing Arts in Des Moines. It also includes remarks by Georgetown University law professor Peter Edelman and the induction of Robert Oberbilling into the Iowa Legal Aid Hall of Fame. Tickets start at $50 and sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact Terry Bennett at tbennett@iowalaw.org. That's tbennett@iowalaw.org.
Hello, Mid-American Energy.
I'm very concerned that you want to bill me an extra $5,000 to build a nuclear reactor. Do you know we're in the middle of a recession?
Oh, we were hoping you wouldn't hear about that until after the legislature had taken action.
Why not let your shareholders pick up the tab?
Oh, way too risky for our shareholders. We need you, our loyal customers, to pay for it.
Wait, let me see if I understand this. Mid-American wants to build a nuclear power plant in 10 or 20 years, and they want me to pay for it now?
That's right.
Well, I'll just take my business elsewhere.
Sorry, we're a monopoly. What we say goes.
I've heard nuclear power is more expensive than other sources.
Yes, it is.
And I've heard there's no plan for how to dispose of nuclear waste.
We're looking at shooting it into the sun.
Well, I'm not going to sit back and let you make bad decisions with my money.
We're betting you will.
Stop Mid-American's power grab. Call your legislators today. 281-3371. 281-3371.
Paid for by Physicians for Social Responsibility.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
That's Brother Trucker, folks, kicking us off today here on the Fallon Forum. Welcome to the show. And we got a lot to talk. We're focusing on climate change today. We've got a broad range of issues to cover this week, but climate change is critical. We're going to devote the entire program to this conversation with 3 different guest experts, all in the studio. Very excited to have folks here with us on that subject. I do got to call attention to a study of a different nature. Of course, all the studies on climate change are relevant to our conversation, but this one, not really relevant to climate change, but it's just too juicy not to pass up. A study found that married men who spend more time grocery shopping, cleaning, and cooking reported having less frequent sex than do husbands who stick to more traditional chores like gardening and home repairs. So What more evidence do you need, folks? Go out there, leave the dirty dishes for someone else, right? Okay, enough of that. Climate change. There are those of us who are keeping a very close eye on what happens in Washington, D.C., but there's plenty of stuff happening right here in Iowa. And I'm delighted to have State Senator Rob Hogue with us in the studio. Rob, welcome to the show.
Happy to be back, Ed.
And you've got session coming up in about an hour, I believe.
We do, and I need to be there.
Yeah, well, we need to let you get there because
Yes.
you're doing important work. So, again, there's a lot of things happening at the grassroots level, and I want to talk about that too. But first, what are we looking at in terms of potential policy initiatives at the state level that might move us in the right direction?
Well, look, there are a lot of things the state of Iowa needs to do: renewable energy, energy efficiency, drought management, water management. Lots of things we need to do for this reality that is coming at us and is going to have such severe effects on our state. You know, the environment of the state of Iowa, the ecology, the plants are all based on the climate that it was back in, maybe in the 1970s, or the climate that had existed before that. We are entering a new era. It's going to be very, very challenging. There are things that people need to do to get involved. But I will say this, Ed: if we really want to solve the problem and really do the emissions reductions that are needed and to prepare for the climatic changes that can't be avoided, we need national leadership at the national level. So there are things the state of Iowa needs to do. Renewable energy, we need people to speak up for it. But we also need people to demand that President Obama and Congress take the action that we need them to take.
And I want to talk about that for sure, because I think you're exactly right. And there is conversation about the extent to which the president is going to be willing to move forward on the needed climate actions. But at the state level, I mean, again, you recognize there are things to do relevant to drought and flood management and just research as well. But we've still got a bunch of folks at the State House. I can probably refer to some of them as Neanderthals. Maybe you can't. And I do that in a loving, civil kind of way. But come on, I mean, when you are not even willing to pay attention to the scientific evidence that is just hitting you in the head like a 2x4, you're kind of out of touch. But we have a bunch of those people at the State House.
Look, Ed, people need to hear from citizens. They need to hear that this is a concern. I believe that this is the core central purpose now of government in the 21st century. This is the defining historical issue of our times. And people need to speak up at a national, state, and local level and say, we've got to do this. We've got to be more energy efficient. We need to use 100% renewable electricity, and we need to prepare for those climatic changes that are now unavoidable. Right. Ed, you and I never thought that in the year 2012 we'd lose over half the Arctic ice in the summer.
No.
Right? We never thought we'd see a superstorm like Sandy and the devastation that it did.
Well, we never thought we'd see Cedar Rapids, the city hall underwater.
Yes,
you know?
I understand that, or the drought of 2012,
or two 500-year floods within a 15-year period here in Des Moines.
We are now in an era of serial climate disasters, and we need citizens to speak up. There is still time to take action. We can't prevent all the climate change. We can't prevent all the damage, but we can significantly reduce it. And now is the time people need to speak up. You know, here's the question, Ed. If Hurricane Sandy and the drought of 2012 don't get you to act, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Right.
The scientists have been telling us this for decades. That scientific judgment gets more and more certain. We need to act. We need responsible American leadership on a global basis, and that's something that every listener can do something about.
Okay. But now you've got folks at the State House. You've got some Republicans. I don't know if you have any Democrats who are still got their head in the sand on this, and certainly not all Republicans do it. You've got some Republicans who are proposing legislation that would repeal, for example, the state statutes on responsible growth and development, on land use planning, on trying to control urban sprawl. And I mean, and it's just a small piece of the puzzle, but you know, urban sprawl is part of the problem. You know, continuing to develop in floodplains, continuing bad development is part of the problem. And yet you have folks that want to repeal that stuff, who want to go the other direction from where we need to be going if we're going to take climate change seriously.
We're all in this together. Iowans, Americans, we need to come together, and we need to deal with this new reality. And look, I understand there's some people who may never believe in it, right? I mean, you've still got people in our state who deny that the Holocaust happened. I mean, you can't do anything about that. But the 80% of us who are rational, are thinking, can follow what's happening, we need to come together and act. So this is really the time to speak up.
So do you think the Senate again, the Senate being controlled by Democrats. With your leadership, you got some other key leaders there who really understand the gravity of this problem. Do you think the Senate will pass any significant climate legislation? And if so, what might it look like?
Well, Ed, I'm just going to tell you, we're a little early in the session yet to know that.
Okay.
The advocates are working. We're trying to get people to speak up right now, and then we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
It would be nice, the Senate can pass bills. We've passed bills. Last year we passed bills for electric vehicle incentives. We passed bills for wind energy incentives, and they all died in the House. What we're trying to do is give the issue some space, get people to speak up, and see if we can get to a new agreement.
Right.
In the meantime, we've also urgently got to speak up nationally and let
yes, I was going to shift to that.
We got to let our congressional representatives and senators know. On February 17th, people might know that Sierra Club and 350.org are organizing what they hope will be the biggest climate rally in American history in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
That's on February 17th. Well, if people can't do that, I urge them to get in contact with me, iowaclimateadvocates.org, and look at what we're trying to do locally here to support that effort nationally.
iowaclimateadvocates.org.
Yep. It's
iowaclimateadvocates.org.
It's an all-volunteer grassroots organization, and we need Iowans to speak up. We need to do this. It's hard work, but we got to do it congressional district by congressional district and really support responsible American leadership on climate change, because right now our leaders are failing us, and they've been very, very irresponsible with the future of our planet.
And would you make that criticism of Democrats in Congress as well?
Absolutely. When Democrats were in charge in 2009, 2010, they weren't able to get it done. They should have gotten something done. They weren't able to get it done, and we need Democrats to speak up too.
And I know the event on the 17th in Washington, D.C. is addressing the broad concerns relevant to climate change, but I believe there is a specific focus on the Keystone Pipeline, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and we should stop the Keystone Pipeline.
And really, it's up to the president.
It is up to the president, and also now the new Secretary of State, John Kerry,
sure.
who, nobody has been better on climate change than Secretary Kerry. And now here's an opportunity for him to do something. We need to leave the tar sands in the ground. And by the way, for those Americans who say, well, what about energy for us? Well,
this isn't even energy for us.
The Keystone Pipeline, it shouldn't be the XL pipeline. It should be the export pipeline, because that's why they want to go to Port Arthur, Texas, is they want to sell the dirtiest oil in the world on the global market to the highest bidder. And by the way, that's not going to be Iowans.
But this is just Americans cooperating, helping the rest of the world, helping our neighbors to the north, help other places in the world by shipping oil through our country. I mean, I don't get it at the time when we're all concerned about.
It is wrong on
security.
it is wrong on so many levels. It's bad for water. It's bad for waterfowl. It's bad for hunting.
It's bad for farmers who might lose their land to the
and a bunch of them already have.
Yes.
Why would we allow a foreign oil company to condemn land in America for a pipeline that's going to be used for export? It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, and the argument is we need the jobs right now, but those jobs are so temporary and so few compared to what you might get if you invested a comparable amount of time and effort in wind or solar or some other type of renewable
Wind,
fuel.
solar, energy efficiency are the way to create jobs. Those are the things that create jobs. Things like that. So that's a red herring. It's a bad deal. It hooks us. It makes us dependent on expensive foreign oil.
Okay.
And the way to beat that is to break our addiction to foreign oil and embrace the new energy future.
But not just breaking our addiction to foreign oil, but breaking our addiction to oil.
The fossil fuels. We've got to learn to leave all fossil fuels in the ground. We need to do it relatively quickly. 15, 20 years at most for us to really be able to limit greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere to something that's not perfect, just survivable.
Yeah. We're going to talk with Wally Taylor with the Sierra Club about a positive development in the area of leaving coal in the ground later. Folks, Rob Hogue is my guest. If you'd like to join the conversation, 244-0077. Should have dropped the number out there earlier, but if you want to give us a buzz, 244-0077. Toll free, it's 855-244-0077. So, again, I think a lot of folks have been very concerned about President Obama's position on the pipeline. He's seeming to have it both ways for a while. But with the selection of John Kerry as the new Secretary of State, with a kind of a demeanor being set in the second term of a president who's not going to put up with, with the road blocking, the senseless partisan road blocking coming from congressional Republicans. We're seeing in Obama so far that looks like he's going to get some things done on some important issues. We've certainly seen initiative on the gun issue. We've seen some initiative on immigration, and working again bipartisanly, but with the people you can actually work with, not the folks who are just trying to get in the way. And it seems like climate change may be in the same category.
Well, I think it is, and there are three tangible things he can do. We've talked about the Keystone XL pipeline. Secretary Kerry can stop that.
Right.
Number two, we can stop this idea that you drill for oil in the Arctic Ocean. That just makes no sense in so many ways. We've got to leave the oil in the ground. A spill would be disastrous in the Arctic. And the third issue is we need to extend our clean air regulations, including greenhouse gas regulations, to existing coal plants. And that's something, again, the president can do. He does not need congressional authorization. And I think he just needs to say, this is a big issue. Here are actions I can take. They will help safeguard the future of our people and our property. And that's what he should be doing, is saying, we've seen too many climate disasters. We've got to draw a line in the sand and stop this and begin to reverse the buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
So if you were a betting man, and I know you're not, but if you were a betting man, you would bet that he's probably going to do his part to put the kibosh on the Keystone Pipeline?
I think I would say, if I had to guess today, I would say he would say no to the Keystone Pipeline unless Congress steps up and, as part of a deal on comprehensive climate legislation, passes that, and then maybe he would permit it.
Okay, and what about on the other two issues, oil drilling in the Arctic?
Well,
coal.
I know the groups, Sierra Club, NRDC, other groups are working really, really hard on those things. I think it's likely that he will extend greenhouse gas regulations to existing coal plants, and I actually think it's becoming much more likely that he's going to say no to oil drilling in the Arctic.
All right.
I'm pretty confident on the three things. I think he's begun to articulate a message that he really understands this.
Yeah.
But here's the point for people listening. We've got to convince Americans, that broad 80% of Americans who think this is a problem, that we need bipartisan support for climate action.
Right.
When we fought the Cold War as a country, it wasn't one party fighting it and the other party not fighting it. We were all in this together. Same with World War II. We need to get all in together on this. This is the defining issue of this generation. We've got to find a way to make the Earth livable for 7, soon to be 8 billion people. We've got to find to make the world livable. Otherwise, we're going to see more and more climate disasters, and that's just a scenario we can't go to.
Yeah.
If 4 feet of water through downtown New York City doesn't get us to act, what's it going to take? Does the water have to be there permanently? Ed, do you believe that in the next century we could have sea levels rise 3 or 4 feet?
Oh, I think that's pretty much given. That's a conservative estimate.
That's what the scientists are saying. Well, if you even think that's a possibility, a significant possibility, the time to act is now. We can't wait for the disaster. We got to get going on this issue.
And if we need any additional motivation, if Manhattan is underwater, just think of how horrible it will be when all those Yankee fans move to Iowa.
I know that's a joke, but we're talking about a generation that's going to see more environmental refugees than have been seen in the whole history of the world.
Yep. And we're already seeing it.
And we are starting to see it. We still have people who live in Cedar Rapids who moved here after Hurricane Katrina, right?
Yep. Same in Des Moines.
We are seeing it, and we got to get after it. And the good news is we can do it. We can do it, but people need to speak up.
So, okay, the 17th in Washington, D.C., again, hopefully people are carpooling or busing there and not going the carbon expensive way of flying, but who knows? Anyway, folks are going to D.C. There are, again, group efforts hauling people there from Iowa.
If you go to iowaclimateadvocates.org, you'll see the people who are organizing the van pools out there, and you'll see the efforts that we're doing locally to support it.
And I will say, I think 1,000 people arrested at the White House to pressure President Obama to come out against the Keystone Pipeline. What was that, a year and a half ago?
November of 2011.
Yeah, that was pretty powerful.
It was powerful. I know several Iowans who went and were arrested. I obviously was not. But there were several Iowans who went out there, and what's different is this tends to be grandparents. You're seeing more and more grandparents who are doing this because they know, the parents are busy, their kids are busy, they got these grandkids. We're talking about very, very potentially very serious consequences in the lifetime of children who are around today if we don't get on top of this issue. And I think you're going to see more and more Iowans speaking up. I think it's time. I think we've been very, very patient with the climate issue. Okay.
Right. And but
crazy people like you and me, Ed, we've been on this for 30 years, right?
Yeah, about that.
It's almost been 30 years.
About that, yeah.
People have been so patient. Well, at some point, you got to make a decision. And 2013 is the year for climate climate action.
If people can't get to Washington, D.C., there are events happening in many places across Iowa. And again, that information is available at iowaclimateadvocates.org.
Yes.
All right, Rob, thank you so much for joining
Thanks, Ed.
us. Well, I want to keep us posted on what's happening at the State House. Hopefully, we will see some momentum on some of the things that we here in Iowa can do. Although, of course, we know it's a national and, in fact, an international issue. We're going to be talking with Wally Taylor with the Sierra Club next about some positive developments when it comes to coal. Yes, Mid-American Energy no longer, eventually going to be backing out of burning coal at 7 of its power plants, and the Sierra Club had a big role to play in that. I do want to thank the Sierra Club and also Physicians for Social Responsibility for helping to sponsor the Fallon Forum. And I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. It's our local grocery store. They keep the money in the local community. And you know what? The owners of Gateway Market don't, unlike the owner of Whole Foods, doesn't believe that Obamacare and fascism should be equated. So anyway, we got some good people owning that business. We should support them. Again, not just a great grocery store, but a great cafe for breakfast, lunch, and supper. I'll be back in a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, folks. Mr. Baber's Neighbors kicking off this segment of our conversation. I want to thank Community CPA and Associates for sponsoring this segment of our show, and I want to welcome Wally Taylor to the studio. Wally is an attorney from Cedar Rapids. This place is just crawling with people from Cedar Rapids today. Wally is also with the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and knows a thing or two about the reasons why Mid-American is backing out of coal use at 7 of its plants here in Iowa. Wally, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ed, for inviting me.
Yeah, and again, the Sierra Club was one of the organizations that filed this lawsuit, a class action lawsuit based on the clean air standards that it alleged Mid-American was violating through its use of coal.
It was not a class action; it was just a Sierra Club.
Ah, okay.
And it's what's called a citizen suit under the Clean Air Act, alleging that the Mid-American was violating its air quality permits. The specific violations were that the emissions were so thick that the opacity, in other words, the ability to see through the emissions, was in violation.
And how far? I mean, I assume that was right in the vicinity of the plant, and as the air as it dissipated a bit, that was no longer an issue.
Eventually, it becomes no longer an issue. Yes,
right.
but they have certain emission limits in their permits that they have to follow.
So was this a national Sierra Club lawsuit, or was this a state Sierra Club lawsuit?
A joint.
Joint. Okay.
The Sierra Club is the Sierra Club.
Right. Sure. Okay.
And
right.
But it was both a.
But it affects not just Iowa; it affects the entire country.
No, it just affects Iowa.
Okay, so are we seeing similar actions in other states around the country?
Oh yes,
okay.
yeah. The Sierra Club has shut down over 100 coal plants now.
Okay, and some people will hate you because of that, because they say, "Well, gosh, we need that cheap, reliable, energy source." That and now you're just going to make it more expensive for all those homeowners whose utility bills are already through the roof. What do you say to that kind of argument?
Well, actually, the utilities are finding out that coal is too expensive, and they're moving to natural gas.
Is it becoming more expensive, or are they just getting less subsidies?
Gas is becoming cheaper.
Right.
That's the coal is not necessarily becoming more expensive, although some of the EPA requirements that are coming down the pike will make the coal more expensive.
Such as?
Emission limits on fine particulates that come out, sulfur dioxide.
So, for example, the power company will have to install some additional scrubbers, cleansers, whatever you want to refer to the systems that are used to try to get that material out of the smoke and ash.
Emission controls, yes.
Okay.
And in fact,
I knew there was a simple word for it.
Yes. In this Mid-American settlement, in fact, 2 of the plants in the Sioux City area, they're going to install more emission controls because they want to keep those plants operating on coal, but they've agreed to put more emission controls.
So they're weaning. There will be 7 power plants in Iowa owned by Mid-American that will no longer use coal as of, was it 2016?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how many other power plants will continue to operate with modifications still continuing to use coal?
2 plants in the Sioux City area.
Okay, and that's it, statewide?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, this is significant. This is a very, very significant development. I imagine that there are some coal companies in the Appalachian Mountains that are outraged right now that don't like you very much.
I'm sure.
All right. Okay, well, congratulations on that. But, I mean, coal has a lot of power in Washington, D.C. I mean, I remember... and coal has a lot of power right here. We used to have a lot of coal production in Iowa, and we still have, Congressman Boswell was a big defender of coal production. That was one of my complaints about his positions when I ran against him was, a letter he had signed on to, asking for, continued and even expedited extraction of coal because it was important to Iowa. And so this is encouraging. I mean, that was that letter was just written maybe 4 or 5 years ago. This is a big development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, in 2007, 2008, we stopped the construction of 2 coal plants here in Iowa.
In Marshalltown and Waterloo, I believe.
Right.
Was that
right.
08 or yeah, it was 08, wasn't it?
I believe so. Time flies when you're having fun, but I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, you're having fun. That's good. Well, anytime you can beat Mid-American in a lawsuit, I guess there's a little bit of fun to be had there. Right.
But I think, truth be told, I mean, Mid-American, didn't roll over, but they were not willing to fight tooth and nail either.
Oh, that's right. They didn't actually lose the lawsuit. They just backed out.
Sort of, yeah.
Because the writing on the wall was pretty clear.
Yeah. And although EPA has not issued regulations yet on greenhouse gases from existing power plants, I think that's the next step. And perhaps Mid-American and other utilities are looking ahead that far, thinking they need to do something else.
And when were the EPA guidelines changed to basically allow this lawsuit to occur? Was that under the Obama administration or previously?
Oh, this is under the Clean Air Act back in 1972.
Oh, so it's been in the act for that long. This standard is not that new.
Right.
So what took you so long?
Who knows? That's how the law works.
Right. Okay.
The wheels of justice grind slowly.
Well, they do. At least they grind. Hopefully in the right direction. Sometimes I feel like they're grinding me the other way. But okay. So what happens next? I mean, this is settled. I mean, they're moving away from coal in 7 out of 9 power plants here in Iowa. What about Alliant? Are they under a similar standard or what?
We have sued them also. That hasn't
you're a bad dude.
That hasn't come to fruition yet. And in fact, the EPA has intervened in that action.
Really?
Yes. And it looks like Alliant will actually shut down some of their coal plants, not just.
So when you say the EPA has intervened on behalf of the position that you're advocating,
right?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, how a citizen suit works, I don't want to get too technical here, but the citizens bring a suit under the environmental law saying that the utility is violating the law and that EPA hasn't done anything about it, so the citizens can step up. But once the citizens do that, then EPA can come in and intervene and finally do their job.
Right. Okay. Well, good. So,
what bothers me about IPL or Alliant is that they have refused to install any more wind generation.
Right.
And
Mid-American's been good on that.
They have, except the problem for Iowans is that a big share of that wind is being sold out of state.
Right.
And because the states around us have very good renewable energy standards and Iowa does not. Ironically, we were the first state in the Midwest to have a renewable energy standard, but it's almost 30 years old, and now it's way, way too low.
Okay. So beyond waiting to see what happens with the Alliant action, what's next?
Well, we would like to see more wind, more renewables. We'd like to see what's called distributed generation, where people can have their own solar panels, their own windmills.
I mean, people can't have their own solar panels now?
They can, certainly. And it's getting much, much more economical to install solar. Wind is not quite there yet, but
and with wind, I mean, with solar, there's problems. I mean, for example, in my neighborhood, Sherman Hill, it's an historic district, so solar panels weren't around back in the late 1800s, so you would not be allowed to put those on your house. And I understand why. I mean, there's a tension there between the value of preserving some sense of a history, but you also want to do your part for energy efficiency and for responsible energy. So, I mean, how are communities dealing with that kind of tension?
Well, for example, in Cedar Rapids, we had a controversy about a wind generator that was going to be installed in an area, and they thought it was going to be too high, maybe too close to some buildings, and they finally worked it out so that they could put it somewhere where it wouldn't cause those problems. So I think those can be worked out. But you're right, it is something we need to work through. We haven't really thought through very much.
Yeah. So in this case, in this example you're giving me in Cedar Rapids, this was a windmill that was powering the electricity needs for a business, for multiple businesses, a community. Who was the designated beneficiary of the power?
It was a residential area and some business.
Okay, all right, good. Well, yeah, it's encouraging to see these things moving forward, Wally. I really thank you for the work you're doing with the Sierra Club. If folks want to learn more about your work, they go to sierraclub.org, I believe.
Iowa.sierraclub@sierraclub.org.
Iowa.sierraclub@sierraclub.org.
Right.
Okay. A little bit of redundancy there, but I think if you just Google Sierra Club, you'll get it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Sure,
and
glad to
again,
be
I
here.
think it's very important work that you're doing, and I hope you don't get too many threatening emails from Mid-American Energy Reliance. Anyway.
But I do want to plug, since Senator Hogue left, I do want to plug a strategy that a number of environmental groups have proposed called Renewable Energy Jobs 2020.
Renewable Energy Jobs 2020.
Right, and it's a suite of actions that we want the legislature to take that would promote renewable energy.
Yeah, and
jobs.
And people forget too just how much potential employment exists in the realm of renewable fuels.
Oh yes, yeah.
There are countries around the world that are doing so much more than we are in creating those jobs.
Yeah.
So I'd rather us not get left behind.
Right.
So that when I hear the argument that we need to build a Keystone Pipeline because of all the jobs, it's you build that and then you fail to develop the jobs you might have developed had you invested the same amount of time and effort and money into renewables.
Right. And they're mostly temporary jobs, whereas the other jobs will be more permanent, and they're there right now.
Yeah, because the number of people you need to run a pipeline once it's established is pretty minimal.
Right.
You may need more people to clean up the mess once it spills.
Yes.
Which is going to happen as it has happened already with this existing pipeline in Canada. So. Yeah. All right, Wally. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. Wally Taylor with the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club. He's an attorney in Cedar Rapids. Do not let this guy sue you, man. He will win. Anyway. I want to thank Community CPA and Associates, a local accounting firm here in Des Moines, for helping to be a partner with this program. Founder and owner Ying Sa has built a business that is now serving over 2,500 clients. They've been very successful because they do great work, but also they've reached out to communities that often have not been able to afford or understand the accounting laws that we all need to deal with. So Ying has been my accountant for years, done a great job. I highly recommend her and her firm. They're at 3816 Ingersoll Ave in the area just west of downtown. That's Community CPA and Associates. We'll be back in a minute. We've heard from the politicians. We've heard from the attorneys. Now we get to talk to the scientists about climate change. David Karat-Hari, a professor from Drake University, will be in the studio with us shortly.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
Since 1994, Sid's Catering has graced Des Moines area events with quality service and rave reviews. Owner Sid Cohn's culinary career began with a Northeast Iowa vacation home for international clientele. Sid earned a Bachelor of Science in Hotel Restaurant Management and was the assistant clubhouse manager at Des Moines Golf and Country Club. Sid has a passion for fresh, local products and offers a wide range of options, including vegan, gluten-free, and ethnic. Mention the Fallon Forum when you book your breakfast or lunch event and get 10% off. Contact Sid's Catering at 208-2091. That's Sid's Catering at 208-2091.
This is Dr. Holding of the Story County Veterinary Clinic. For 15 years, we have been spaying and neutering feral cat groups at affordable prices. Wild cats destroy game birds and songbirds. A single female cat can produce over 4,000 kittens in 7 years. The shelters are full, so unwanted kittens will be put to sleep. Your cats will stay home and stay healthy. Call us for all your dog and cat needs at the Story County Veterinary Clinic between Ames and Nevada on Highway 30, 1 mile east of Interstate 35, 515-232-8766.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
On climate change here today. I want to thank Max, and I want to thank Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling for sponsoring this segment of our program. Okay, a quick look ahead, if you got a second here. We've got lots of things coming down the pike this week. Tomorrow we're going to be talking with attorney Joseph Glazebrook, another attorney. We're going to talk about a very troubling case involving a woman accused of prostitution. And there'll be various legal questions that case raises. We'll also talk about the Boy Scouts. They're having a bad time right now with sexual orientation. So we'll talk about that and see where that's going to go. I also want to discuss the controversy involving Grimes and the decision originally to ban bicycles from certain roads in Grimes that has been apparently overturned by a higher authority. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. And, of course, tomorrow's program will also be rebroadcast on KHOI 89.1 in Ames on Wednesday. And Wednesday we will talk with Bill Owlett. He's from MIT, another darn scientist. We're going to talk with him about U.S. immigration policy and how it is killing entrepreneurship in this country. We're also going to talk with Darlena McElroy and her attorney, Sandra Quilty, about a very, very disturbing situation involving the DHS. And I dealt with a lot of DHS stuff when I was a legislator, and this one really bugs me, and I think we're going to talk about it a while and see where we can go with it. Also, Wednesday, going to be talking about Iowa's landfill situation. Again, landfills are filling up in some places. One of the goals was to increase recycling. That was happening for a while. It's not happening as much now. Why not, and what do we do about it? Thursday, we're going to talk about the emerging bipartisan consensus in Washington, D.C. on immigration policy. This is an encouraging development. Also, of course, it being Thursday, State Rep Dan Kelly is going to join us with an inside look at the Iowa House. David Osterberg with the Iowa Policy Project also with us on Thursday, talking about a recent report that challenges some of the property tax assumptions that Governor Branstad is trying to base his proposed tax changes around. And we're going to start an interesting feature on Thursday with Nakisha Phillips. She's a young woman. She and her husband are having their first baby. They're using a midwife, and they're having a lot of interesting experiences. So I thought, well, why don't we have you on the program every week to give us an update of what it is like to go through pregnancy, both in terms of the physical side of it, the intellectual, emotional side of it, but also the medical side of it. So that'll be an interesting conversation that we'll have every Thursday for a brief update from Nakisha. Friday, we're going to talk about the corporate media. Again, that's a big conversation. We'll talk a little bit about it. We're also going to talk about guns, and apparently the gun lobby seems to be, some say it is using tactics used by the tobacco lobby years ago to try to kind of strong-arm its policies through Congress. We'll talk about that. And again, starting another new and hopefully regular feature, Heather Ryan joining us again on Friday for Ryan's Rants. You know, again, she's not too shy. She's not afraid to take Frank from Des Moines on, and we'll get her analysis as a woman, as a political leader, on some of the top political stories of the week. So that's the week in review, folks. Back to the conversation about climate change. I'm thrilled to have David Karad-Hari in the studio with us. David is a professor of environmental science and policy at Drake University, and one of the scientists involved in the report. No, the report's not the right word. The thing that came out saying, hey, scientists, wake up. We got to do something in Iowa.
Exactly. Thanks for having me on the show, Ed.
Welcome.
Back in November, we put out a statement with 138 researchers and scientists who are interested in climate issues from 27 different colleges and universities around Iowa on the topic of climate change, some of its impacts or expected impacts in Iowa, and the fact that in many ways climate change is already costing us money and doing damages here in our state.
Well, yeah, clearly. I talked to Cedar Rapids about that, or folks in Des Moines in the Birdland area, or
exactly
Central Place, or some of the other places, 4 Mile, that got hit.
Right. And so part of what we were trying to do is put something of a local face on climate, so people people didn't feel like it's just a bunch of people talking, in Washington D.C. somewhere, but so they could see researchers and scientists perhaps in their communities who they know and trust, or who they can go and talk to and say, I see you signed onto this statement. I've heard this or that about climate change. Can you maybe help me think about these issues? So that was part of our goal.
And that was over 100 scientists.
Yes.
That's an impressive amount of work, just getting that many people to agree to be a part of it.
Well, we actually put a similar statement out a year before, and I think a lot of people who, we tried to contact a number of folks that we knew, for that statement, but then I was surprised by the number of people who, having seen this other statement come out, said, I'd love to be part of that. I'd be interested in being a part of that. So yeah, it certainly was a lot of work putting things together, but also it was surprising how many people contacted us.
And we think scientists, again, working for universities, maybe some of them working for companies. I mean, do you have any folks working with Monsanto or any of the big corporations? I mean, I know that I know they employ scientists.
No, right. Good question. I mean, we actually talked about that. How do we want to expand the people we're putting on this? We were trying to get, like I said, researchers, scientists, teachers at colleges and universities. So we
is it specific? Yeah. All right. So is there does it make sense to try to broaden the foundation of the scientists involved with this by looking at folks who are working for the private sector or even for government agencies?
Well, in many ways, yeah. I mean, certainly there's a lot of information that those different types of people have on climate change. In terms of government agencies, they're seeing different kinds of effects. People working for private companies, obviously, they have the things that they're looking at. Again, there are a lot of people who are interested in climate change. Our intention right now was just to identify people.
Well, and there are people in all areas, whether it be in university life, the private sector, or with the government, who might feel that the integrity of their job, their security in their professional position might be compromised if they speak out on this issue. Is that a possibility? Have you encountered that at all?
Let's see. I wouldn't say that we encountered it in this process. I mean, certainly there are people who would rather not speak out. Certainly there were people who, when we talked to them, felt personally that they were interested in saying something more, more forceful than even what we had written, but who felt like who felt that wasn't the right thing to do given their position. But no, I don't feel like a lot of the people, certainly in universities that we were talking to, are nervous about.
So has there been any pushback to the statement that has been made so far?
Very little. I know of, one person that we contacted, wasn't interested in signing because she didn't believe, or she disagreed with the statement. And then I think there were two others who felt that this particular statement was too strong in the statement that, it's already costing us money, for example. So they weren't sure that was, they weren't comfortable with making that statement. But again, a very small number of people pushed back based on that. I mean, certainly there's some people in the press who are on blogs really, who have tried to discredit some of the statements. But generally, my sense is that they've focused on straw men.
Folks, 244-0077 if you want to join the conversation with myself and with David Kurard-Hari. He's a professor of environmental studies and policy at Drake University, environmental science and policy at Drake University. Again, number 244-0077. So, again, you haven't had a lot of flack. There's been some press coverage. Has there been anything relevant to a positive response saying, hey, yeah, you're making good points. Those of us in positions of leadership are going to take some action on these ideas?
Yeah, and I mean, there's been plenty of response from, we all got letters from the American Geophysical Union saying, we love what you're doing in Iowa, and we may be interested in trying to make this a model for some other places. I know New Hampshire, they actually did a similar thing after we did. I have not heard from, I've heard from political leaders that have generally supported, moving forward, who've said great work, but I haven't heard from anybody who said we've changed their minds yet.
All right. Well, I mean, it's a work in progress, I guess. As Senator Hogue said earlier, some of us have been working on this for 30 years, and we're not to the tipping point yet where we're seeing the paradigm shift that's needed. Absolutely. Okay, 244-0077. Let's go to Danielle from Woodward. Hello, Danielle. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Ed and David. I attended the Oak Savannah Fire Conference, actually on behalf of Drake University.
The Oak Savannah Fire Conference?
In Dubuque. That was held last week. And there were scientists from surrounding states who have been able to get very good phenological data. That's data that has to do with seasonally occurring events, when things flower, when insects hatch and are available for nesting birds in the area. And the issue surrounding climate change and biological resources is quite striking. The data is overwhelming that there's a species shift, and some species are just going to be dropping out because the habitat they need for survival is no longer available.
Yeah, let me throw in something on that. This AP story caught my attention. Sandy, this is Hurricane Sandy or Superstorm Sandy, leaves shorebirds in dire straits. It talked about red knots, among other birds, who were their typical pattern is to fly north from the tip of South America all the way to the Arctic, I guess. And it's expected they're going to find very slim pickings because they eat all these horseshoe crab eggs, but the sand, Superstorm Sandy, washed all this sand away from a strip of beach from Virginia to Massachusetts. Not entirely, but in a lot of places, that sand is gone, and those horseshoe crabs aren't going to be able to spawn. And these birds and other birds are going to find themselves unable to make the journey. So we don't even think about that and what additional impacts that might have beyond just that particular species.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And actually, I'm from that area. I'm from the East Coast, and the hurricane was devastating, and I had family members affected. I would like to make a statewide suggestion. I would like to suggest that our governor keep this small amount of what he claims is excess tax money. Please use it to beef up the Department of Natural Resources. We need these statewide inventories. We need to look at the matrix that other states are using that show where these critically threatened species are and how we can best manage their habitat, including fire, for their continued survival. We are losing our oak savanna because when these woodlands close in, the oaks do not regenerate.
Of course, the rub there, of course, is you use fire to control those invasive species, and in the process of burning, you're putting more carbon into the atmosphere.
Well, the good side is that when you have a vigorously growing oak savanna or prairie, the carbon balance, and David could comment on this, perhaps I've got it wrong, the carbon balance should be neutral because those vigorously growing native communities absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and in fact, prairies with 2/3 of their biological material growing underground are great carbon sinks.
Yeah, Danielle, thank you for the phone call, and thank you for the information.
Yeah, Danielle, thanks so much. And I'm glad that the conference went so well. But you raise a really critical point, which is that we see over and over in meta-studies and studies around the world that changes in species distribution are highly consistent with expectations from warming. And that's one of the reasons why there's essentially no controversy at this point as to whether the temperatures have changed, whether global climate has changed. That's conversation has moved on to causes of change and so on. But certainly every individual change in species distribution is going to be related to a very complex set of things, of which climate is only one. So it's hard to say climate killed this thing off or climate moved this there. But if you look at the overall picture, it's very consistent.
Yeah, I never would have thought that migratory birds would have been affected by Hurricane Sandy over a year later. You never would have made that connection. And who knows what else might be affected by it that we aren't even thinking about now.
Right, and certainly Hurricane Sandy was affected by a large number of events and causes and so on. But again, it's climate is a piece of this puzzle that has led to significantly increased damages from events like that.
Well, let's go to one more phone call. And David, I hate to do this to you, but welcome Frank Frank from Des Moines to the show.
Well, it's going to be quick here.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, listen, your comrade Gore says the cause is over. Jury's out, the cause is over because he done sold your cause out.
How's that?
Well, I mean, he's figured out it's going nowhere, and he's not making any money off of it anymore. So he sold his TV network to Al Jazeera for $100 million or $500 million, whatever the fee is. I've heard two different prices, but to a country who's fossil fuel based. That's where they generated their money. So he took a whole bunch of bloody money and a whole bunch of dirty money for his network.
Do you have any idea what Frank's talking about, David?
Actually, I do.
Okay, good. Because I don't.
Right. So yeah, and so I mean, essentially, what Frank's talking about is that Gore. I forget the name of his network that he developed.
The internet. Didn't he invent the internet?
Right,
oh
exactly.
No,
he didn't sell that to Al Jazeera. No. but no, he sold. It was a network designed to focus on these kind of issues, and had relatively modest financial success, and he ended up selling it to the same media conglomerate that I guess owns Al Jazeera. I could be wrong about details there, but it's something like that. And yeah, it's one thing I want to avoid is personalizing the issue of climate change too much in the sense that Al Gore, an imperfect man, right? I mean, he has done a lot of good things. He's done a lot of bad things. And if we make climate change about, what does Al Gore think? Then I think we're making a big mistake. I think that the real question is kind of what do the data show? Where is the scientific consensus and so on? So yeah, I don't really understand where Al Gore is right now in terms of his media focus, but he certainly, I wish him well.
Does that appease you, Frank?
Well, the signal is that he's telling you the scale's not tipping. You see, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. He's been the one that's been pounding the drum. He's been
he's not the only one. There's a lot of people who have been pounding drums.
But see, his company, he was highly invested. Him and other people was highly invested in a company, a software company that was going to teach companies how to go green.
Right.
Well, if he's throwing in the towel, so to speak, and this was going to be $1 trillion.
Maybe he's just getting old and tired. I don't know.
If he's thrown in the towel, that ought to be the signal to the rest of you guys that it's going nowhere.
Right. Well, I get what you're saying, Frank, and I have sort of mixed feelings about it in the sense that, you know what, it did seem like change was, or change in terms of governmental programs and so on, was much more likely, say, in 2008 than it is today. And certainly investments in, in companies that are going to be selling carbon credits and so on, those would have been much more profitable if we had had governmental action. So I don't disagree with you for a moment that climate change, or the likelihood of action on climate change today, is lower than it was probably 4 years ago. Well, at the same time, I just want to say, in some sense, it doesn't really matter whether Al Gore thinks that there's money to be made in climate change or not. As we see more and more each year, climate change is a reality, and so
I'm not as much interested in the money making side of it. I'm interested in the surviving side of it. Frank, thank you for the phone call, and thank you for enlightening me about Al Jazeera and Al Gore. Maybe they're related. Al Gore, Al Jazeera. I don't know. Maybe they're. Who knows?
Could just be he liked the name of the
separated
station,
at birth.
right.
Maybe they're twins. Anyway, thank you, David, for joining us.
Thank you,
I
Ed.
appreciate it. Folks, stay tuned for Bradshaw. He'll be with you next. I want to thank Webcast One Live for providing the studio. I want to thank Maddie Arrington, my wonderful producer. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Stay tuned tomorrow again, 12 noon, same time, same place. And I want to thank Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling for sponsoring this segment of our show. Appropriate that we have a guy who works on furnaces and air conditioners sponsoring a conversation about climate change. Again, if you need work done on your furnace or air conditioner, give Tinker a call, 263-0422. He's got a lot of opinions, most of them interesting, some of them right. But most importantly, he's got 32 years of experience fixing air conditioning units and and furnaces. So give him a shout, folks. And generally speaking, please support the businesses that believe in the local alternative to national syndicated right-wing radio. We're not going to make this continue to grow and thrive unless folks go out there and thank the businesses who are getting behind it by supporting them. So take some time to do that. Go to my website, FallonForum.com. I've got a list of all the other businesses that are supporting this program. Shop there, patronize them, go to their restaurants. They're all local. They're all people who believe in what we do. And if we can support them, they'll continue to support this and other blossoming alternatives, because this is cutting edge stuff, folks. There's no home for us on the big commercial radios. Fortunately, there is home for this conversation on KHOI. It's a small community-owned station in Ames, and we're going to be broadcasting there on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. Again, thanks, folks, for tuning in. I'll be back with you tomorrow.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, We guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money-back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said. I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought